let's head down to the feature match area for our quarterfinal match. Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Las Vegas. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Gabe Carlton-Barnes, and we have reached the top 8. This is the quarterfinals, and as you can see, we've got a really nice matchup for you here. First off, on the right-hand side of your screen, Ben Stark, considered one of the best limited players on the planet.
And the evidence increases every tournament he top eights.
That's right. Yeah, he's from Florida. He's a Hall of Fame professional player. He's platinum. He's looking to get platinum. Now, Ben, with a win in this tournament, will lock up platinum for next year. Right. His opponent, Aaron Lewis, rattled off 13 wins in a row in the Swiss portion. Took a loss, got pared down, but won that last one to finish in the first seed here coming into the tournament. And you can see that Aaron has started things off with the Cloud Elemental, though that thing comes crashing down to the ground thanks to some Tribal Flames. Gnarlipack gets into the red zone for Ben Stark. Now, Ben is playing a 5-color deck, a domain.
Yep, as you can see from him,
deck.
3 different basic land types in the first 3 turns, enabling that Tribal Flames to take out the Cloud Elemental. Can't always do that without help, but if you put those lands in your deck, sometimes you'll draw them in that order.
That's right. Their Sickle Slicer is a follow-up for Aaron Lewis. Of course, he's going to get that Churn token thanks to Living Weapon as he passes a turn back with just 1 white mana available. Ben Stark's going to play Gruul Turf, not tap any mana, not attack, not do anything. Pass a turn back over to Aaron Lewis. Here's a Tumble Magnet, not one you see every day, but it can certainly be a nice tempo play if Aaron is looking to increase his artifact count and keep certain key blockers out of the way.
Right. Aaron's hand looking a little bit reactive. He'd probably like to have a little more pressure. It looks like he's a somewhat aggressive blue-white deck, although I saw a little bit of his draft. He does have some removal and some really powerful spells. You see that? Looks like an Indomitable Archangel there in his hand.
And Ben doing things the hard way. But we actually talked about this as an option when he drafted it. That's a Spectral Procession. He's only got the 1 white mana source, but he can make up the other 2 with his 4 other sources of mana, and that's going to give him the 3/1/1 Flying Spirit token, so not bad at all.
One of them gets stuck by repeal.
Yep, so one of them repealed back to Ben's hand, but as we know, tokens don't get to go back to hand. They don't get to go in the graveyard. They don't get to go into exile. They just go away.
Right, so Aaron essentially cycling that repeal and getting to pick off a spirit in the progress.
Just take a look at what Ben Stark's working with here. You can see he's got an Is It Boiler Works, but he's not playing that. Not playing it this turn. Why? Well, because he wants to get Celestia Guildmage going and have mana up for
an activation. Yep. And Ben showing, he's a 5-color deck, but he's showing a lot of tokens right now. A little confusing for Aaron. Is he a tokens deck? Is he a 5-color deck?
Yeah, and it's funny because the way that worked out was it's because he started out as a tokens deck.
Right.
He moved into 5 colors. He still got some of the remnants floating around there.
Here he goes. He makes a Sapperling, and now he's going to Convoke.
He's actually Convoking here. That's not an attack you see coming in there.
And more tokens coming into play. So he scatters the seeds.
Oh, man.
And an Arrest hits that Guildmage.
And it can't hit quick enough for Aaron Lewis on his side of the table there. He fires that thing off, and remember, Arrest makes it so it can't attack or block, but key here, it can't use activated abilities either.
Right, essentially taking that Guildmage out of the game.
Yeah, Ben Stark's going to note that for later, though, because he did draft, I believe, at least 1 Sundering Vitae, and that's going to immediately come in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, Ben just made so many tokens that all of a sudden he can just start attacking Aaron, and Aaron has to do something. Tumble Magnet, not good against a bunch of tokens.
Yeah, it's a terrible, terrible matchup for that card here.
Aaron finally finds that 2nd white mana.
And he's going to play an Aether Snipe to kill one of the Spirit tokens and hope to try to stabilize this board against the Sapperling onslaught that Ben Stark is putting forth here.
Sapperling and Spirit.
Yeah, there's
2 gone now. One has been repealed. Aether Snipe takes out another.
A swamp off the top for Ben Stark means that he's going to have access to all 5 colors.
What will he do with it? Most of his cards this game were used to generate these tokens, and now he's got a funny situation where, his deck isn't really built to be an aggressive deck. So he has to decide, do I keep trying to close out this game, or do I go into defense mode? It looks like he's going to attack.
Yeah, and there's Primeval Titan now for Ben Stark. So he's going to get 2 lands. They can be basic. They cannot.
Right.
You know, if he wants to get one of his bounce lands to keep his mana flowing, he could, or in this case, an Evolving Wilds to keep thinning out his deck for mana. They do enter the battlefield tapped, though, but Primeval Titan, you know, it's so powerful to get those lands, and then you also remember that it's a 6/6 trampler that's just going to rumble over and take care of Aaron Lewis's life total in short order on its own.
It generates a lot of inevitability.
Rest off the top.
Yeah.
That's how you do it, Aaron.
So, Aaron got a couple of arrests. During the draft, it looked like he might go sort of affinity, but he kept getting such solid
non-artifact
blue and white cards that he had a little trouble deciding. So you see him, he's got one counter left on his Tumble Magnet. He's going to say, I'd like to turn the corner here. Smart play from Aaron Lewis. I'm going to play the biggest creature on the board. Ben doesn't know it's the biggest creature on the board. He thinks Primeval Titan is the biggest creature. Primeval Titan's going to get tapped by Tumble Magnet this turn. Aaron's going to play the Arrest next turn. Indomitable Archangel will get to start attacking one turn sooner with the series of plays.
Okay.
He basically traded in that last Tumble Magnet counter for an Indomitable Archangel attack.
Okay. Archangel, of course, a 4/4 with flying.
Yep.
Right now there's 2 artifacts on the battlefield, so Metalcraft is not enabled.
Metalcraft on that, of course, just gives his artifacts hexproof, which if you're
Is
trying
it Shroud?
it's probably Shroud.
I think that at that time frame it may still have been Shroud.
Can we get a look at Indomitable Archangel there on the screen? Folks can read it. It is Shroud. So
Old school hexproof.
yeah, exactly. So there's the Arrest, and you see him also equip his Archangel. So actually, he decides not to attack.
Well, you can see why. Skyreach Manta on 5 is pretty threatening there,
Right.
For Aaron, for Ben Stark, and that Archangel is doing a nice job of holding it off, but just barely. Meanwhile, Necrogenesis is just going to town on the graveyards here, and just spewing out more and more Saproling tokens at the cost of only 2 colorless mana here.
If Ben can spit out a few more tokens, he's threatening an Alpha Strike, right? He's got.
So that must be blocked. One of those gets blocked. He goes on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in there right now.
So he needs 4 more tokens. Necrogenesis may have run out of food, but I don't think so. Oh, it probably has, because some of the creatures are still sitting in play under arrests.
Thanks to the arrests, yeah. We think of those as removal spells, which of course they are, but they don't actually put them in the graveyard.
Right. And he does decide to Alpha Strike. So this gives him the chance. He gets in for 5 here, and this drops to 4. Now all he needs is 1 creature to be able to Alpha Strike the next turn.
And guess what? He just got a creature in his graveyard from that happening there. So
Exactly.
this is going to set up the win next turn for Ben Stark, unless Aaron Lewis can do something about it.
Yeah, and Aaron, such an uncomfortable position to be in, having to hold all your creatures back, even when you have a 6/6 flyer and a 4/4 against a board of 1/1s. Aaron does have another creature in hand. Whoa. That seems very aggressive.
That's scary if you're Ben Stark.
Yeah, so he's going to play 2 creatures.
He's going to play
Actually, he's gonna
3.
play 3. Yeah, those are Spectral
Actually,
Procession.
he's going to play 4.
Yep.
Yeah, he's going to play a Water Servant after the Spectral Procession, and the Spectral Procession was a huge one here for Aaron Lewis, as all of a sudden now he's the aggressor, and Ben Stark is the one who has to try to find a way to poke through this last 4 damage.
And he's the aggressor with a gigantic flying creature.
Yeah. Oh, and boy, has he found it. Celestia Guildmage number 2 threatens to pump twice here his whole team.
And that's going to wipe out those spirits, because Aaron can only take 1 hit from those creatures if he can pump twice. And that looks like what he can do.
Can he just get in for lethal? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blockers now for Aaron. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 attackers.
Yeah.
It isn't quite lethal, but it would wipe out all of the spirit tokens and get him down to 2.
Actually to 1, right, because he can pump twice.
Correct. It would get him down to 1.
Meanwhile, the Water Serpent and the Aether Snipe would both be able to eat Sapling tokens, so it would be a 1 creature advantage out of this combat for Ben Stark. He has to worry about the crack back, though, because Aaron Lewis has Water Serpent, Aether Snipe that are going to survive.
Yeah, he's actually only 1 mana short right now of doing it for 3 times, right?
Yeah, he is, because of the...
Which means as long as he doesn't die on this turn, he can untap and do that.
Right. And Ben probably regretting not tapping a plane side to cast his Guildmage. You saw him play it. He thought he had the win, and then he countered afterwards.
But he does still have the Gruul Turf to make 1 extra token.
Right.
So at least he gets to do that. But you're right. He probably was thinking, maybe I should have left 1 other green, because he could have made 2.
So Ben
And-
has the lethal attack here. Aaron has drawn 1 card.
And Ben finds the win. So 1 game to Ben Stark. It looked like he was going to win it for pretty much the duration, but it did feel like Aaron Lewis turned the corner, but he in fact hadn't. Ben Stark wins the first game. Randy, what do you got for side table updates?
Well, I found the other token deck. There was another token
There
deck.
really was.
It's in David Jetha's hands. He ran into Peter Mcginnis, though, and Peter Mcginnis had Vampire Lacerator, Ashenmoor Gorger, just the nice black-red Bloodthirst deck. So Peter Mcginnis up a game against David Jetha.
Thanks, Randy. Well, here's a good one. Swans of Bryn Argall hitting the red zone here, it looks like, for Andrew Lozano.
Yeah, it looks like there's some early creatures traded off, but nobody really took too much damage. Pascal Menard now at 13, probably after that. Swans got in for the first time. Well, there was a lot of mana tapped. I'm not exactly sure what happened there. Maybe that Fiery Fall was cast in a nameless inversion. It looks like possibly Spike Shot Elder was saved from a nameless inversion by a Brute Force. Wow.
Yeah, so how many cards do you think Pascal drew the last turn? I mean, he's got 1,000,000 cards in his hand, and he just played 3 this turn.
Yeah, so Andrew Lozano.
Whoa!
So
Profane Command.
there you see, I was watching Andrew draft. That was his first pick in pack 1.
He's
Profane
doing it for
Command,
7 here?
And it's a foil, you'll notice. Yep, and hitting with the Swans. So dropping Pascal to 2. I think he thought it was lethal. He played it so fast. The Swans was his first pick out of the second pack.
He gets the Water Servant back on the battlefield here.
Right, Profane Command, a huge, huge bomb in this format.
Yeah, it's massive.
So versatile.
One of the best cards. Usually when it's cast, the game ends shortly after.
Right, so Pascal in an interesting spot here. He can maybe set up some situation to draw a bunch of cards off that Swans of Bernardo, but
But
It's
what's
not
the
gonna be
end
enough.
game for him?
What's the end
right?
game, exactly.
Can he get in for 17 this turn? That certainly doesn't seem likely.
so you could potentially get this plating out, but it's not quite big enough to turn on the Bloodshot Trainee. The Trainee, of course, could take out that Water Servant.
He can get in with the Sun Spear Shikari.
Yeah, if it were a big plating, he could look at maybe using Double Strike to try to knock Andrew Lozano down, but
He could gain some life, but it looks like it's not going to be enough because he's scheduled to take 4 damage in the air next turn.
right, if he would gain 3 life though, so that is enough. He'll buy himself 1 turn.
He
with this
could buy a
attack.
turn here.
Yeah.
Now, he presumably is going to lose the Shikari here, right?
Right. Andrew Lozano wondering why he isn't attacking these other creatures. The puzzle seems to indicate that Pascal Menard doesn't have anything else. A gut shot would be about the only card that you could be concerned about here. Of course, there isn't a growth effect, a Mighty Leap, or a Brute Force. It could have been just targeted on the Bloodshot Trainee. Trainee could have killed the Water Servant directly. And then the Boris Swiftblade could cut in too.
No blocks here.
So Lozano saying,
Remember, Lozano does have a lethal crackback here thanks to the Water Servant.
right.
So he does not want to lose it if he can at all help it. Now, unfortunately for him, Pascal seems to have a fairly ridiculously built-out hand here.
Yeah. So I think
And
you
the
could see
court- the
Pascal
court
re-equip
duelist.
here.
Yeah, it could just chump block here. He's going to be able to keep that Water Servant at bay. So it's going to take the Swans 2 turns to finish off Pascal.
Right,
Should be at
exactly.
5 life.
Yep, he
Not at
gained
2.
life off that plating in the Shikari, so he's at 5. So going to 1 here. Pascal has so many cards. Oh, Burst Lightning. The game ends.
I wonder where he got that. All right, so Andrew Lozano with Burst Lightning finishes off Pascal Menard and takes the first game.
He took a Burst Lightning, I believe, pick 2 or 3 in pack 1 after taking Profane Command.
Okay.
So he looked to be red-black early, but there wasn't a lot there. Ended up picking up some blue cards, and you can see he's ended up in kind of a 3-color deck.
All right, here we go. Back on our main match. Ben Stark able to squeak out that game. He was ahead significantly, but found Aaron Lewis turning the corner on him, but Ben found his second copy of Celestia Guildmage, which
Just
got him
in
the win.
time.
And just barely. It was a nice close game there. Randy, before we get into this one, what updates do you have?
Yeah, I found another red-black deck in Lucas Duco's hands, and another 5-color deck in Marcel Dizon's hands. So some
This
fighting.
explains why the blue-white deck was open, right?
Yes, there's a lot more fighting, some collisions in the lanes. They have split 2 games, so they're on their way to Game 3 already. Interestingly, by the way, Duco's black-red, elemental-themed more than Bloodthirst.
Is that where the Gouger ended up?
Yeah, he's got Smoke Braiders in there.
Oh, yeah. Power out Ashmore Gougers. That is not a bad deal at all. All right, so we're back in business here. A bit of a defensive start here for Aaron Lewis. He's got a Moonlit Strider.
Ben Stark's going to be happy. You know, from Aaron's perspective, Ben Stark is threatening a 5/5 flyer this turn.
Yeah.
He's got 4 colors of mana.
Wow, yeah, that's a good point, GCB. He could easily slam a basic land here and just make a Skyreach Manta.
I don't think he actually has it, but
No, he's got an Evolving Wilds. That is his 4th color of mana, though, and his 4th basic land type as well.
That
He's
says
actually
to
got
me
5 colors of mana available.
Tribal Flames right here, right?
Yeah, it is.
So he goes and gets that land even though it's tapped.
Now, why is he going to use Tribal Flames on the Moonlit Strider here?
Well, you want to get rid of that Moonlit Strider while there's nothing to Soul Shift back.
Okay.
And the other reason is the Tribal Flames is basically dead as long as the Moonlit Strider's around, because it can always sacrifice Divine Creature Protection from red in response to the Tribal Flames.
So Ben figures if it's going to eat the Tribal Flames anyway, I might as well be mana efficient. He also got in for a couple of damage.
Might as well do it now and make sure that the Soul Shift doesn't have an impact, which could be relevant. You see a Kami of the Ancient Law, which is a spirit there in Aaron's hand.
And there's a replacement Alloy Mirror.
Well, it was repealed, so it's the same Alloy Mirror.
And there's the Alloy Mirror replacing itself, I should say. And yeah, and also a Cruel Turf. Thank you, Ray. And an Air Servant hits the battlefield here for Aaron Lewis. So
Who's got the big flyer now?
yeah, he's taking the reins back on this whole Skies thing, and it looks like Ben Stark is drawing a heck of a lot of lands, though. One of those cards was a Skyreach Manta.
It was. And it looks like we'll see that Manta
1, 2, 3, 4,
right
and
now.
5.
Unfortunately, the Air Servant not particularly intimidated by a larger flyer.
No, it can kind of blow a bunch of wind its way and tap it down, though it does cost 3 mana. It is not cheap to do. Late in the game, you can see activating that and not really worrying about it, but not here.
Well, Aaron Lewis says, you know what? I'm going to just pay 3 mana once, use this Arrest in my hand, take out that Manta, so that I can keep developing my board and attacking you. Start cracks back for 2, but it's a bad sign when you're using an Alloy Mirror to attack when you have that many cards in your hand. And looking pretty flooded.
I don't know. I was like on your side today. Until I drew 4 cards. Yeah.
Arrest doing very good work here for Aaron Lewis. We saw that in the first game, nearly buy him enough time to turn the corner. The second Arrest, I should say.
Right.
In the first game. The first one doing nice work here, though. Oh, wow, it's Kozilek. Now it's going to get remanded, but he actually gets to draw the 4 cards here.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, Aaron trying to buy himself a little bit of time to deal with this Kozilek, but
this is a huge tempo swing, though, right? I mean,
it is a huge tempo swing.
it was Ben's entire turn, so can he pile on enough damage here, Aaron Lewis? Because Kozilek Butcher of Truth will finish out this game if it's allowed to hit the
Ben
battlefield.
actually
instead.
dropping to 6 here, so Ben next turn needs to put something.
He needs more than Kozilek.
Yeah, he probably needs to stop that Air Servant directly. Get rid of it.
I mean, he
because
drew
can't
4
block it.
cards last turn. He also has a
Ooh, he
Sylvan
drew a
Bounty
Sylvan
there,
Bounty.
too,
That's
which
handy.
could buy him some time, but it's only spinning his wheels. He needs to add to the board here, too.
Yeah.
Oh,
he drew
Tarashi's Grasp. That's
which is
big.
great. It's going to be able to kill that Arrest. However, Air Servant still tapped down that
The Skyreach Manta, yeah.
And so
I guess he could kill the Manta.
see, yeah,
Gain more.
He could. I think you probably see him kill the Arrest simply. of
Yeah,
course,
you
use
kill the
mana, but,
Arrest.
There's also a Vapor Snag there in Aaron Lewis's hand. That's a
Wow.
life point. And you'll notice that if Ben only deals with the Air Servant, 3 spirits plus a Kami, that's lethal
That is
with a Vapor
air
Snag.
quotes lethal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that there's a Sylvan Bounty.
Sylvan Bounty
be
and
accounted
the
for.
Tarashi's Grasp could also just put his life total up and take that
Right.
option away.
Well, and it's a sorcery, so at least Aaron would know
No,
about
I'm just saying it would
Yeah.
just take that option away.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think Ben trying to decide, hey, do I cast this gigantic guy? I don't think he can do that. I think he has to play a little bit defensively. The reason you see him hesitating is he's not really creating a great answer to the width of Aaron's attack. Right? What you want to do against a bunch of tokens is get blockers out that can block.
Are we going to see that
Vapor Snag.
the Vapor Snag now?
We might.
Does that do what he wants it to do? It prevents the life gain, but does let Ben, in fact, get the Manta back.
Yep.
But that could just tie up
Vapor
tons
Snag
of his mana. This is super
was just
interesting now.
4 damage because when the Manta comes back to Ben's hand, the arrest falls off. It's no longer in play. It's not a legal target for the grasp. The grasp, being a legal target, is countered. Therefore, he doesn't gain the life. Plus the 1 life from the Vapor Snag means that was a 4 damage Vapor Snag.
That's huge. And also, Ben Stark knows that he can't just replay the Manta because Aaron Lewis has mana for Air Servant. He can just tap it down and kill him.
Right. I think you're going to see Ben pained here to just play life gain this turn.
Looks like he's going through all of his options here, but they may be thin.
Yeah. With all his cards in his hand. Paying 6. He casts Stolen Bounty.
Yeah, so he's going to gain 8 life here.
He's immediately going to have.
Now, I don't think he's at 6, though, right? He was at 5?
He's at 5, so he's at 13. He's immediately going to take 9 on this attack unless he blocks with Dallin here. In which case, he'll still take 7. Most of that life immediately going away. One of the reasons that life gain, not a particularly.
This is why I
powerful
tell
life gain.
people not to play it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Incidental life gain is great. Something like Lifelink, but a card that's just there to gain life, it's not particularly good. So Ben takes 9.
Yeah, Ben takes a quick count of what colors he has available and says, I can live without this alloy mirror. Oh my, this is insane from Aaron Lewis. Now he's got Indomitable Archangel and a backup Tumble Magnet here as well. And I think we're going to see Ben Stark scoop him up here. This is another situation where, Kozilek just is not going to get the job done, period.
Yeah, it might be the biggest creature on their board, but just tacks around. Yeah,
Ben that's going to do it.
And
Aaron Lewis strikes back. He takes game 2, and we're going to get a game 3. Randy, side table update.
We got our first semifinalist,
Okay.
Lucas Ducal. He gave so many creatures trample with Soulbright Flamekin as Marcel Dizon attempted to block with Eldrazi spawns that he was able to make 8 mana and give more creatures trample with Soulbright Flamekin.
Wow.
And it mattered. And then he used the extra leftover red mana with his black to pump up Ghostly Changeling. It's just like synergies that I hadn't really seen before. But yeah, Lucas Ducal through to the semis, 2-1.
That's pretty wild.
Thanks, Randy. All right, so let's take a look at Pascal Menard versus Andrew Lozano. And has the combo been assembled?
Almost.
Yeah, it looks like Vapor Snag's going to take care of it, at least temporarily.
So exciting. So excited at the Bloodshot Trainee combo. Love that.
He had
card.
it. It was close. And he did force Andrew to burn an entire card just to keep him off of it temporarily. He's got to be actually happy with that result.
Right.
And in the meantime, he actually gets to attack for a fair bit. Well, and the Dimir Guildmage goes away anyway. I think Andrew knew, well, if it's going to die anyway, I may as well get something out of it.
Right. And, all he does is kill a germ token, but it was the only creature out there holding that equipment. So Pascal now going to have to summon another creature and start equipping it. Andrew can dig for an answer to that Bloodshot Trainee in the meantime.
He's got one in his graveyard.
Looks like he might have a Shadow Mage Infiltrator in his hand.
Yeah, the Agony Warp is in his yard.
Right.
Looks like Agony Warp did some good work this game, though, by the looks of it. A gut shot.
That's
That
a
in the
great
sideboard took down a Viashino Slaughtermaster is how I'm piecing this together.
great sideboard choice.
And then the Agony Warp looks like it took down the Boros Swiftblade. So Andrew's already weathered a bit of a storm here to get to this point.
We have a collection of creatures that he's going to have to deal with now, though. Any of which Pascal can cast. You have to think he's tempted to establish that trainee, but also concerned that maybe the reason Lozano didn't play anything is because Lozano has a mana leak.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm Menard, I think I play out the Goblin here. It demands attention, and
It
if
also
he
is the
doesn't
most
stop it-
expensive thing he can do, right?
Oh, I meant the Hobgoblin, the Double Striker.
Oh, you're going to play the Hobgoblin.
Yeah.
Okay.
It says, you have to deal with this. And if you don't, this thing's just going to kill him. I mean,
Yeah, very large chunks of damage
Yeah.
incoming.
it's now a 3-3. Next turn, it's going to be a 5-3. That's it's going to attack for 10. This is the double strike deck.
This is the deck. This is what it's supposed to do. All right, Nameless Inversion is going to take down the Hobgoblin. We're going to leave this one and go back to game 3. We got to catch the conclusion of Ben Stark versus Aaron Lewis here. Aaron won that game in impressive fashion, just brushing his shoulders off at the thought of Kozilek, and was like, nah, not even worried about it. And defeated Ben Stark to force a game 3 here. Ben had a good draw that game. This game's not bad either. It looks like he's kicked things off with a Selesnya Guildmage here on turn 2, but maybe forced to trade it off.
You know, he didn't miss his land drop, though, and he only has one color. I think this Guildmage is not long for this world, and Ben is looking like he's in trouble.
Wow, so he's missing multiple colors.
Yeah. He decides
Remember, he's a 5-color deck, so he's short on number and amount, and Aaron Lewis just needs to try to put the pedal to the metal and get him here, and it is not a land off the top here for Ben.
Alloy Mirror in Ben's hand. That's what it is. He kept his hand. He had land, Alloy Mirror, thinking, all I need to do is draw one land.
He looks like he's going to get rid of the Sigil Blessing.
I would
And, you know, he
discard.
was right. If he does draw a mountain out in the next couple of turns, he can take care of these threats and maybe keep himself alive. But the draw from Aaron Lewis looks good. I saw he's also got a Mole Drifter in his hand to follow up.
And an arrest for the first big blocker.
And here's a big attacker. And what did he find?
Scatter the seeds.
Oh, that's not going to do it either. Not a happy look for Ben Stark.
Not happy.
He was hoping to try to win the GP. That would give him enough points for Platinum for next year.
Right.
But if he can't find a way to beat Aaron Lewis here and find some lands, he's going to have to pick up a few more points.
Yeah, he's going to need either another GP top 8 or a great performance at the Pro Tour.
And he has to discard once again. So not a fun ending to the game here, but it does look like Aaron Lewis is going to be able to close things out against Ben Stark. He attacks for 8 damage and plays Mole Drifter, drawing 2.
For the Rubbins.
It's getting a bit of an embarrassment of riches here. Look how many lands I have. Well, there's a Sun Lance. Not enough, though. Excuse me, there was a Plains to cast Sun Lance, but it wasn't enough. And Aaron Lewis, the person who really dominated the Swiss portion of this tournament, continues the trend and moves on to the semis past a tough opponent in Ben Stark.
Yeah, and I think Pascal drafted quite well. Sorry.
I do agree with that.
Pascal did draft quite
Yeah.
well. Looking at the name on the screen there.
You thought Aaron drafted well.
Aaron Lewis drafted quite well as well. And Pascal looks like he's really dominant here. Andrew Lozano chump blocking with the Shadow Mage Infiltrator.
Yeah, he's looking to even things up as Pascal.
And Lozano with he's got a 3-color deck, and he doesn't have 3 colors of mana. He doesn't even have a 5th mana.
And we're going to go to a game 3 here as well. So Pascal Menard finds the win and forces the game 3. So far we've got Lucas Duco and Aaron Lewis have advanced. You know, both of them, I believe, are from the Madison, Wisconsin greater area.
Are they?
Maybe Milwaukee for Lucas Duco.
The Midwest putting on a good showing in Las
Yeah,
Vegas.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I'll double check that with Lucas, but I do think they're putting on a good showing here for sure. Pascal's, of course, from Canada. I don't actually know where Andrew's from. I'm going to say California.
Yeah, I believe he's from the West Coast.
Makes my guess.
Yep, I'm
Mathematically.
I'm hedging
correct.
against your specificity.
Of the state with the most people in
Yeah,
it.
I'm gonna stretch it out just a little bit. Andrew Lozano, as I understand it, works as an animator on Archer.
The TV show
TV
Archer?
show Archer.
The funny. He's an animator on
Funny, you described it as funny,
Don't you?
hilarious.
Okay, hilarious. Whatever. I wanted to make sure we were talking about the same thing.
Yeah, that's
Oh, that's cool.
that's what I heard about Andrew.
That's a cool job.
Yeah, really, really cool job. That's a great one for having conversations at a party. You know, what do you do?
Yeah,
Someone
I mean,
can really
Pascal's
identify
job
with it.
isn't bad either.
What does Pascal do?
Well, he's a professional Magic player.
A little harder to describe at a party.
It takes a little longer, but it's equally as cool, I think.
Yeah, that's a pretty fun job.
And it is business time for Pascal Menard. He's found himself 1-1 against Andrew Lozano.
Andrew's
He
showing
is
some.
making his last-minute sideboard decisions here before they head to that critical game 3 to see if Pascal can go forward. It looks like Pascal's given up. We're going to move him over. We're going to move him over to the left screen. That actually just allows us to get a look at their face. You know, when they're
Right.
in those moments.
See who those
Yeah.
names are attached to. So, I guess Ben Stark, now is going to have to attend another Grand Prix or two, try to pick up some more points.
He was doing that anyway. Yeah, we can check out the upcoming schedule. We've
Here are
got
his opportunities.
Charlotte on June 12th through 14th. That's a modern Grand Prix. Star City Games is going to be covering that one. Following weekend after that, Providence and Copenhagen. You can take your pick, standard or modern. Singapore and Buenos Aires is just another weekend after that, and that is, again, standard and modern. Montreal is going to be Dragons of Tarkir Limited on July 3rd through 5th that same weekend. Legacy in Lyon. So
Legacy in France.
yeah. Oh, they love it over there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Legacy is pretty big in Europe. They get a good following out there, and it's kind of funny. The metagame's a little different than we get here in the States or in North America.
That's neat. The accents are different too.
Well, yeah, that wasn't the end of the list.
It's
it was
cool the
just
way that
merely
works, though.
one bullet point.
Yeah, exactly.
We certainly hope you'll join us. We're going to have coverage at, well, most of those GPs will be doing video coverage and bringing you that. Randy.
Yeah, Peter McGinnis.
Do we have another semifinalist?
Not quite.
Okay.
Peter McGinnis and David Jetha are headed to game 3. Peter attacked with what he thought was lethal, visibly crossed his fingers, but the precursor golem, he knew that if David had an answer for precursor golem, he was in trouble. Grim Affliction, 3 copies, triple proliferate.
Wow.
You wind up with 2 counters on each of the golems, so they shrink down to 1/1s, but the other creatures' +1/+1 counters grew up so that the crackback became lethal.
Wow.
Brutal.
On to game 3.
We got a game 3 over there. We've got a game 3 here. After those two finish, we're going to have our semis. We're going to bring you those, followed by a finalist. And what has been a fantastic Magic weekend here will culminate with us crowning a champion here at one of our 2 GPs in Las Vegas. Pascal's making sure to get nice and random.
Yeah. So who do you like here in this matchup? Andrew Lozano gets to be on the
Haven't
play.
seen quite enough of Andrew's deck. Normally, I would prefer a blue-black deck over a red-white deck in the dark, but in this case, I'm going to give the edge to Pascal. I think his deck looks like it's well-suited against Lozano's, and you can't have that much removal, and you kind of need to remove every threat that Pascal makes.
Right. Well, you saw Andrew do some nice sideboarding, bringing in that gut shot, trying to make sure, and it looked like in the early parts of that game, he did try to just pick off every creature.
He did,
right
and
away.
I just think that's a tall order.
It is a tall order.
I mean, sometimes you lose to a germ token trying that strategy.
Well, Andrew is blue-black, but he does have red. He has Fiery Fall, Burst Lightning in his deck. We saw that Burst Lightning win game 1. And you see a mountain in his hand there. It looks like sort of a land-heavy hand there for Lozano. And he's debating it. You know what that black card is?
What is it?
It's a Midnight Banshee. Ooh.
That will put a complete wrecking on Menard if he can get that thing down at any point.
Yeah.
He's going to take a mulligan here, but that would be so nasty. Now, he needs to
Yeah.
survive a long time to get that on the battlefield.
Right. You have to
Costs
think.
6 mana, triple black.
I mean, he had the ability to cast it there on turn 6, and he's on the play, so that's almost in a reasonable time frame. But his other card was also a 6-drop, so he had no way to stop the first threat from Menard. Menard very easily plays a double strike creature and equip, and suddenly just starts knocking Lozano's life total down before that.
Yeah, huge chunks of
that
life
Banshee
total.
can do anything.
Yeah. So basically, it just puts too much pressure
Yeah.
on the top of the deck for Andrew Lozano for him
Exactly.
to keep it, so he ships
A
it back.
really tempting hand to keep, though, simply because he knows how dominating that card is in this matchup.
All right, well, now he's got a Nameless Inversion and a Cathodian. You got to like that if you're Andrew Lozano.
Yep.
Cathodian's bigger than most of what Menard does. It forces him to have not just a double striker, but also an equipment.
And he does have the equipment.
He's got the
Ooh,
copper
Lozano
carapace.
also has a Stoic Rebuttal. So Lozano, I think we saw him sideboard in a couple of counter spells there.
Double copper carapace, and this is actually going to play very nicely into Lozano's
It
hand.
really is. You know, he gets to use that Stoic Rebuttal as removal.
Yeah, he's going to start off with the Cathodian here. He's going to open the door for a double striker to come down, and that's exactly what it does. It's Viashino Slaughtermaster, but Lozano with a mana leak too. He's got that
So-
nameless inversion in hand, right?
Yeah, so he can nameless inversion,
He can even let him equip one of the carapace and then nameless inversion
Yep.
if he really wants.
and then he can mana leak anything else he does. So Lozano in a good situation here. I would have been tempted if I were him to inversion the Slaughtermaster and actually attack with Cathodian. Start knocking
I
his
agree.
life total down.
When your opponent has 2 equipment and you have a removal spell, you're advantaged.
Well, he might be thinking, I can time walk Menard by letting him equip his creature.
That is exactly what he's thinking. And
he's
here
gonna
it
get to do
goes.
that.
He says, why don't you just hold on a minute? And this is really keen of Lozano because he's playing around brute force here.
Well, he's playing around brute force, but brute force would still counter the nameless inversion.
Oh, it would, wouldn't it?
Response? In response to it.
Wow, yeah, it totally would. All right, so there is that brute force, but he's of course got the mana leak to take care of it.
Yeah, that would have
So
been a big deal.
he actually ended up drawing the brute force out of his hand, which is probably a good thing in the end.
Oh, and he just drew the Midnight Banshee.
Wow, so he's one swamp away from being
One
able to
luck
cast
that
it, and
way.
he's got Stoic Rebuttal to keep the next key threat off the battlefield. Menard's
Yeah.
going to have to figure out what he wants to do. I think he's going to lead with Runed Servitor here, but if he does, that means he doesn't get to equip up a double striker with the Copper Carapace. This is a touchy situation. Both of these plays
It
have
is.
been very close.
It is. And it looks like Menard is actually holding an Oblivion Ring. So,
Maybe
If-
he just takes a more defensive stance here.
well, I'm just thinking that if that Midnight Banshee hits the table soon, Menard will probably still have the Oblivion Ring in his hand. So, here we do see a double strike creature.
Well, now that's going to, he needs to counter that one, right?
He does have to counter that one. That's a 10 power creature once those equipments hit. So Lozano thinking, I save this Stoic Rebuttal. He also knows that the Midnight Banshee could kill that if only it didn't have a
Right,
light.
that's a good point.
So a big, scary Servitor here with those Copper Carapaces. Ooh, a Sign of Blood. That's going to help him get to that next mana.
Yeah, which could set up the Banshee for next turn potentially.
Banshee,
Goes
of course,
down
going
to
to get
18.
stuck with an Oblivion Ring right away. It would almost be better for Lozano to draw something else good.
He drew another Stoic Rebuttal.
Yeah. He's had it in his counters. He knows he wants to stop all the creatures. A clever plan.
Now, is this Rune Servitor going to pick up a Copper Carapace?
It is.
And is it going to pick up another Copper Carapace?
I think it might.
I mean, the first one makes it not be able to block it, makes it big. He doesn't have another threat. He might as well just go land, swap the other one on there, and try to crunch for 6.
And he does.
He does, and of course, this is all under the counterspell. Andrew Lozano's going to be pretty bummed to see that this is how Pascal decided to use up the mana on his turn because he can't do anything about it, and he has to take a huge hit
And
here.
because of the Sign of Blood, that's exactly 1/3 of Lozano's life total.
You're right.
Ooh, that was a great draw for Lozano. Although he can't use it right away. This
No.
turns on both the Banshee and the Fiery Fall in his hand.
Oh, that is pretty nice. Rakdos Carnarium is going to help set up the Midnight Banshee, but like you said earlier, GCB
Might get stuck with an Oblivion
is going
Ring.
to get ringed.
Well, I think Lozano's plan here is going to be take another 6 damage, and the next turn cast Fiery Fall after blocking.
Okay, there was
Here's a
another
Boros
double striker
Swiftblade.
with the Boros Swiftblade in hand now for
That's
Menard.
almost certainly going to eat the Stoic Rebuttal. Lozano can't fall behind on board anymore.
Now wait a minute. He plays it. Andrew Lozano plays the Banshee. Does he assume that he's going to be able to block with the Cathodian here and keep his Banshee alive, which will eventually eat up the Swiftblade, or is that
Well,
just too risky?
With all that equipment, you can't let a double striker hit the table.
You just can't even let it hit for a
No.
turn. All right.
And with Menard having exactly 1 card in hand, the Stoic Rebuttal, it needs to hit when it, take its opportunity to hit.
He
Just a
drew
mana leak.
mana leak, yeah.
Yeah, wow. So now he has to choose between playing a 5/5 and chump blocking with his 3/3.
With his Cathodian.
Yeah. Or chump blocking with his Cathodian and playing Fiery Fall. Interesting because if Menard just chooses to play his Oblivion Ring here, the game is over.
And he's going for it. Why not? the door is open, and Manalik doesn't do anything here.
No.
Now, he's got the fiery fall. It's not quite enough.
Because that rune servitor is 6-6. You know,
And Andrew,
double strike sometimes is superfluous.
Yeah,
ability.
and that's going to do it. Pascal Menard
Wow.
finishes him off with the ring. The door opened. He walked through it. He said, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Now he's going to find himself in the semifinals is Pascal Menard. So we have got 3 of our 4 semifinalists lined up. Lucas Duco, Aaron Lewis, and Pascal Menard are already on. And we've got this one last quarterfinal match to go here. Peter Mcginnis versus David Jetha. They are scored at 1-1.
In this game,
Wow, this looks good for David.
looks really good for David. Peter's only board presence, a little lacerator. Jetha with a Strider that can't be targeted by black spells or blue spells. And
Right.
Peter, of course, playing black. And then with that Vampire Outcast that with lifelink, if Peter doesn't deal with that immediately, you got to imagine.
There's a
Oh,
death
there's a
mark in
death
hand
mark.
for Peter Mcginnis, and it can't hit the Karplusan Strider. That's got to be
Yeah.
frustrating for Peter, who falls down to 7. Now he has at least found a target for the death mark, but he's got a lot more work to do than that. A
The
burst
burst
lightning?
lightning,
That's
so
actually very nice here. He can kill
great.
both the Scion of the Wild and the Strider, or the vampires.
Yeah, he's gonna kill the vampires.
Gotta kill
almost
the
certainly,
vampires
for
here.
lifelink here. Although Strider's still a problem. It's gonna put him on a 3-turn clock.
And he's going to do it main phase. Very smart. He notices that his opponent has forests untapped. He doesn't want to see a pump spell like Vines of Vastwood save his creature, so he gets that thing out of the way.
McGinnis
And
trying to
now
stabilize.
He's
but
got a huge question right now. And you know what? What a great draw there for David. He found Bestial Menace. And it is hard to imagine Peter Mcginnis getting out of this now. He's all the way down to 4 life after the hit from the Karplusan Strider.
he has to deal with at least 2 creatures this turn, or he is done.
And that's going to do it. A couple of lands in hand, and David Jetha is our 4th semifinalist. That is going to do it for this round. Just to recap, we've got Lucas Duco, Aaron Lewis, Pascal Menard, and David Jetha all moving on to the semifinals. And you can see Peter Mcginnis picking up the last of his cards there.